Hello, welcome to IFT ZK Call with the next episode. Today, Marvin Jones and give a presentation about the overview of GKR protocol. Yeah, Marvin, stage is yours.
All right. So we have mentioned the GKR protocol in a couple of presentations already. Most notably, last month we talked about the sumcheck protocol, and we deemed it probably a good idea to actually tell you what the GKR protocol is. It's probably one of the conceptually, it's weirdly a difficult protocol to kind of wrap your head around, but it's not the nuts and bolts of it's not too bad. So the first question though is, okay, what is GKR? What does it stand for? And unlike something like Planck that has a very strange meaning to the letters, GKR just stands for the author's names. So nothing too strange. If you looked at Planck's paper and seen the name, well, one, there's a early presentation of Planck with that basically explains that the name for Planck was just a placeholder and they were going to think of a better name and didn't expect it to get uploaded to the archive as quickly as it did. So they kind of had a very strange meaning for Planck, but GKR, just the author's names. So, but what's it used for? Why would we care about it? Well, it's for circuit satisfiability. So just like Sonic, Planck, Halo, all of these protocols are showing that a circuit is satisfied by its inputs. That's all it is do the inputs satisfy the circuits with the outputs? So inputs go in, all the gates, do their black magic, and the outputs work. Very, straightforward. But instead of what most protocols focused on, especially at the time, because GKR predates Planck, Sonic, even Grot 16. GKR actually is from, I believe, 2008. And it focused on practical provers because a lot of the protocols that ZK and interactive protocols, well, really just deal with in general are they don't really care how much work the prover does. The prover could be running a supercomputer, and as long as the verifier can verify the claim in a sufficient amount of time, most of the protocols haven't really mattered. But this can be kind of problematic because, well, as we've are seeing with the ZKVMs, maybe you don't want to require every proving party to have a GPU or some powerful setup, depending on what application you're going to do your ZKVM for. So they focus on practical provers, which they call muggles. Um, I'm not, I've not read the Harry Potter books, but apparently that's a term from Harry Potter. It's a play on the fact that um, at the same time that ZK proofs were being developed in the 80s, there was a parallel, well, not just ZK, but interactive protocols in general. There was a parallel idea called Arthur Merlin proofs, where Arthur was the verifier and Merlin was the prover, Merlin being all powerful. So a practical prover isn't all powerful. So hence Mongols. And the goal is to have the prover basically run in polylog time. Now, yeah, okay, just making sure. So, very briefly, where are some of these used? Because, like I said, it's circuit satisfiability. It's used in a variety of protocols like Libra, and there was a ZKVM that was developed a year or two ago by Scroll, I believe. I'm blanking on that name, but I don't know if that one actually ever went beyond the theoretical paper though, and I'm just not, for some reason, not remembering the name of it at the moment. But it's used as a sub algorithm for a lot of projects, and I think in more recent years it's getting a little bit more interest because of the practical provers. But it comes at a cost. If you decrease the prover time, you by result kind of increase the verifier time, and the proof size are going to get larger. Like, it's always a constant struggle. You can't have low proving time, low verifying time, and low proof sizes. Like, you have to juggle things somewhere. But yeah. So the first thing that I will comment about GKR itself is it requires a layered circuit. What's a layered circuit? Well, we have a nice simple example of a circuit where we have an addition gate and multiplication gate. But notice that this x2 is not used in the next layer, essentially. It's used down here. A layered circuit requires that each operation, like each layer, everything can be arranged in perfect layers where the gates on one layer only requires access to the gate in the previous layer. So the fact that x2 is used down here, that's too far down. We have to do something to add a dummy gate to preserve x2 down here. And you can add by 0 or multiply by 1 to achieve that. So now that we multiply by 1 to preserve x2, we now have a layered circuit. So if we look at this, this addition gate only requires x0, x1, which is right above it. Multiplication for the dummy gate to preserve x2. And this multiplication only relies on these two gates. And y1 is just the output for that gate. So that's all it means to be a layered circuit. There are some constraints to what kind of layered circuits those are that yield good proving times, specifically the polylog. But those are highly technical theoretical papers that kind of we can talk about it in another talk if there's enough demand, but I that would completely distract from what we are really caring about. But now, since we have this layered circuit, as mentioned, each of these can be just the output of the previous one, as we illustrate. So everything on the middle layer here, I label with a T1. I just compress the Y1 up here just because that's what the multiplication yields anyway. So the output of one gate is explicitly the combination from the two parent nodes, and we can generalize this entire layer for, say, this middle layer as TK. So K is 0 or 1, and we can generalize it as, okay, is the output, is K, so addition Kij would just be, is K the result of an addition of the nodes Ij from the previous layer? Is this multiplication, is K the result of a multiplication from nodes Ij? Now, as soon as you see that, you probably go, okay, why are we doing that? That seems very convoluted. And you're correct, but hold that thought for a moment, because we need to further generalize this expression. So we went from, again, very clean, nice equations and going, let's generalize it. Okay. And now, instead of just having this equation that works for the middle layer, I'm going to go, okay, for layer L, I'm going to have this WIL that denotes the value for that gate. So now I can, just have this nicely written. And this SLIJ, SL minus 1, that's just how many values are essentially in the previous layer. So SL would technically be the set of nodes, but that's just how many we have. So in the previous example, we had 4 wires, so 0 to 3. All right. So again, we've generalized this further. And as we currently have it in this weird generalized form, we have WL, add L, and these strange sums. All 3 of these are actually vectors. So add L is essentially just a vector, again, that's telling me for this combination, do I have an addition gate? For this combination with multiplication, do I have, a does multiplication? So this would just output 1, this would output 1. So it's just an array of, binary strings. This WL minus 1 of I, that's again just the vector for all the gate assignments for the layer L minus 1. So that's all we have going on. These are just arrays. Now, the reason we want to work with these arrays and have it in this weird generalized form is because then we can replace it with multilinear extensions. And once we replace it with these multilinear extensions, again, if you're wondering, nothing's really changed other than these tildes in terms of the arithmetic, and these I tacked on the equate, but basically this is the same. This function right here, if ij are the same, binary string, it's a 1. If they're different, it's a 0. So since this is a linear extension, this a multilinear extension, this just means that if I plugged in a binary string for z, so say k like I have above, this will be the same evaluation. It's just now I can plug in any field element and this will work. All right. So again, you're probably sitting there going, okay, you went from really nice, this is very obvious what I'm looking at, like t0 equals x0 plus 1. That's very nice. What the heck? You took something that looked really nice over there, and I'm now telling you that this mess is nicer. So why? Well, the reason this is nicer is because the line that looks really nice is a statement about discrete values in an array. This is a statement about polynomials. And as we mentioned during the multilinear extension section, I believe in the sumcheck presentation, differences kind of become more exaggerated with polynomials, which is why you can do just a single check with a polynomial versus with discrete. So with 2 arrays, you have to check for differences via checking every entry at most. But with polynomials, you really only have to check one point, and you get reasonable assurance that it's with one. And that's from Schwartz-Zippel lemma. And the other thing that's nice about this is, okay, I don't really need this. I could have collapsed these two sums into a single sum and made this look slightly more compressed. The reason I didn't is because for the slides, it's going to fit on two lines. But this is all just one function being added over a, Boolean cube, a hyperboolean cube. And that's a perfect candidate to use sumcheck protocol. And that's the whole reason we do this. Okay, so and you go, okay, I believe the sumcheck protocol here. That's fine. I believe it here. This is along for the ride, whatever. I mean, you could kind of think about being inside of one of those, but at the end of the day, even if I apply the sumcheck protocol, you're probably going, these are weird. Like W tilde L minus 1I and, W tilde L minus 1J, those are evaluations of a similar polynomial that I'm applying sumcheck protocol to begin with. Like, I'm running into a brick wall because, now I have to do two evaluations. Because if I knew what this was to begin with, I would be doing this, the other way. So let's go back to our simple layered circuit for a moment and think about what we're doing. So with what we are currently looking at with that long equation, that's a variant of this, I have y0. And y0 is in terms of this layer, that long expansion. And ultimately, I can evaluate that with the assistance of the prover and by using sumcheck protocol. However, I still have to get those values on the previous layer somehow for this evaluation. So GKR goes, okay, I've proven this using the sumcheck protocol. That's good. Now we need to go up the next layer, and yeah, I'm going to need a value from the prover, because I don't have enough information to prove this portion myself. So I'm going to have to get this, W L tilde L minus 1 tilde evaluated, but it relies on the evaluation at 2 points. That sucks. Evaluation at 2 points, because you go, okay, well, it evaluated at 2 points, so this sumcheck relies on these two sumchecks, which then relies on those two sumchecks, and it kind of spirals. I legitimately forgot that I did the smart thing and put this here, if you're wondering. Anyway, so we end up with a total of 7 sumchecks doing it this way. And 7 sumchecks is kind of not really good to do. And this is for a small example. So obviously, if I were to increase this by another layer, I would, it would just continue to, expand. The way that you get around this and, maintain a functional protocol is you compress that calculation that relied on these two values into a single expression. And we do that. One of the ways you can do it, there's actually a couple of ways, but the easiest way, in my opinion, is just make a line. And, between the value I and j that you're working with. And you select a random point along this line segment. And you go, okay, I have alpha at 0 to, it's going to start at I. Alpha 1 is going to end at j. Pick some lambda between, and we have a nice line. And then instead of applying sumcheck to WL1 L minus 1I, WL minus 1J, we just apply sumcheck to this particular polynomial, to this evaluation. And that's how we kind of avoid doing both. And that, fixes the issue. All right. That's all the slides I have. I will add a quick remark unless there's a question here.
No question, but maybe is this not a ZK?
Yes, absolutely. GKR, as originally presented, is not ZK. However, so that is absolutely correct, user. What we see right here is not ZK. I thought about adding a slide for the ZK and went back and forth, and I am the worst judge at slides. So I was like, going, okay, this is either going to be a short presentation, or if my luck, it's going to be like an hour and a half just to get through what I wrote. So I so my gamble this time failed. Usually I guess the wrong direction. Anyway, so yes, you can add ZK to this. In fact, you can add ZK to any protocol in a fairly straightforward way. The way that you would add ZK in this particular instance is you essentially add masking to your polynomials. This is done by Libra. So Libra is one of the protocols that actually does add ZK to this. And so you add a masking polynomial that just tacks on a little bit of randomness. Right off the top of my head, I'm probably going to guess wrong on the where the masking goes, but I would assume that the masking just kind of gets tacked on to this entire evaluation. Yeah, so I think you would actually mask the whole portion. So yes, there's also a lot of like how do you essentially efficiently evaluate this, because this is actually a very hard thing to evaluate. So there are ways to do it, but I was leaning on the how complex this is. Any other questions? Like not quite done yet, yet with the remark I was going to add, but it's removed from what this everything I've talked about so far.
I think there's no question.
Okay, so the one thing I wanted to add is that in recent times there has I was looking for a nice layer circuit, and we've talked about this in a previous call to some extent, but I figured I'd mention it in the GKR talk. And it's that the Fiat-Shamir heuristic for strong Fiat-Shamir, just so we're clear, has been shown that you can violate it using the GKR protocol. Incidentally, it was done by, I believe, the brother of R. So potentially sibling rivalry. But yeah, so now GKR itself, I don't think is vulnerable. It's like it not like every instance of GKR is vulnerable. It's more of a how you use it. The particular ways that they violate GKR with strong Fiat-Shamir heuristics is very convoluted, and it's essentially okay, if you have too many gates that you probably shouldn't have had, you can inject stuff into a malicious prover could inject stuff to break things, but I'm not sure how practical it is otherwise. But GKR is also interesting in the way that it's the first example of strong fiat Shamir potentially having issues. Strong fiat Shamir in general, to our knowledge, doesn't have issues, but remember, it's a heuristic and not, like a theorem. It's just, it works because we haven't found it not to work outside of a very special case with GKR. But yeah, I'm happy to answer or elaborate on anything. But yeah,
not question, but just maybe comment. Could you come to slide 2, the layered
yes.
Yeah, I think the logarithm time is achieved by the three whys of this circuit, right? So we can say that since the circuits are merged and each layer represented by the sumcheck, so maybe the number of sumchecks is log n time according to the whole circuit. So that's why it's per log time, right? It looks like it's
yes, absolutely. The sumcheck protocol. So you are correct. It's a log depth, logarithmic depth, and then the sumcheck protocol itself is. Oh, I'm going to cheat and Google this real quick because I'm just blanking on that. As soon as I see it, I'm going to go like, why did I not remember this right off? But okay, it's Google's going to fail me, isn't it? This one will do it. I'm just looking this up real quick. I would have found it quicker if I just pulled up my slides from last time. Yep. Okay. The verifier runtime is that. Yeah, I knew verifier was log time. I was hoping to find prover. I mean, logically, prover would be just linear, but I was hoping to just quickly confirm that. Well, yeah, because they would have to evaluate the polynomial and compute the polynomial. So yeah, it would just be n. So it'd be like log n times n. Well, actually, it's not. It wouldn't be n. It'd be log n times the number of the log of the number of gates you have on a given layer, and each layer is going to be a different number of gates. You can of course cap that, and to be like, I guess, log squared. So yeah, that would be why it's polylog. There are requirements though, because you could have you could make a very convoluted gate that just blows this up. Not gate, but circuit. So you could have like really wide circuits, and that'd be bad.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. But yeah,
I think the construction is very brilliant and makes sense. And
it's a very nice construction, but I considered doing an example out, kind of like I did with sumcheck, and then I realized very quickly that would probably just confuse everybody, and I would absolutely hate my life to have to handwrite even like this level of circuit. I think presenting it would be more confusing.
Yeah,
but it's a very nice looking protocol. It just has a lot of, if you dive into the technical details, like this portion of it's fine, but there's some very strange things to wrap your head around, like why is the evaluation of add and multiply efficient? Why what requirements are there for efficient circuits to be layered? Because there's a lot of papers that dive into it. The other really nice thing, since we still have a moment, is sumcheck and by extension GKR can have very nice ways to do their calculations. Sumcheck GKR, I believe, is actually parallelizable. At least I've seen that somewhere. I can convince myself why it's true, but I'm not going to say why I think it's true, because if I say it, then I'll immediately figure out the error. So I'm going to say I think I saw that somewhere. But more importantly, you can actually do this with sumcheck protocol, and like I said, by extension with GKR, with very efficient storage space assumptions, because you can do this as a streaming algorithm. So Baller has some papers, I believe, on streaming with sumcheck. So that's ability to even reduce storage on the verifier side is interesting.
Yeah, thank you. And last time we can ask if there's no question. Yeah, I think we can wrap up, and feel free to give some comments on this video, or this will be the forum post on WAC forum post. So if you have some further questions, also we can meet there. Thank you,
preferably questions to preferably leave your questions on the forum post, because
yes,
that's where I will actually see it.
Yeah.
I figured I'd point that out, because I think I checked the video and saw that there was like comments, and those were like 3-4 months old. But if you go to the forum posts, I'll actually see those.
Yes, so. Sure. And thank you, Marvin, and see you with the next episode.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right.